Hello and welcome to... Hang on, wait. Yes, hello and welcome to the FYP Podcast, Pod 21... I didn't let you the way, did I? Hello, how you doing? Welcome to this week's 5-Year Plan Podcast.
Hey!
Pod 219.
Ooh.
Not you. Kevin's impressed. Rob, you're not impressed by that?
No, I'm more impressed.
Nice. 219 episodes of talking about Palace.
To be more impressed, I'm actually, to be honest, I'm more impressed by the fact the cat's just got up the tree after a pigeon.
All right, okay.
She's showing
Doesn't
off.
do that normally.
It's not really, no.
No,
She's showing off. She knows you're here, so she's pretending.
Well, you know. So it's Pod 219. It's sponsored by Vector Printing. I don't know why I sound surprised. For all your print and embroidery needs, go to vector.co.uk, and that's Vector with a...
K.
Oh, that was like game show style K, wasn't it?
I've waited to do it on my own for quite some time.
And how was it?
It's good.
And JCIS, the global research and brand consultancy from South London. Visit jc-is.com.
Ich werde das tun.
Oh.
Wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It's German. I will do that.
Good.
I don't think you can really say ich werde. I'm not sure
no.
you can really say it that way, so you have to kind of elongate it.
Oh, it's a shame Ali's not here. She speaks German.
Does she?
Well, she may or may not speak German. I don't know. I haven't got enough German to know whether she's actually speaking proper German or not.
Right, but it sounds like German.
It sounds like, which is It's a great language, German.
It really is.
It's
The word for bra is Bustenhalter.
Yeah, that is
Which is
good.
great. They just seem to add things together and make up words. They're very friendly, the Schalke fans, I thought,
Yeah.
compared to what was happening in Burnley at the time.
I found it really, I think the thing I found difficult was that I failed my GCSE in French. I don't even remember if I did a GCSE in French. I think I got pulled out of the class. So watching a French stream of that game was just really confusing. I was trying to get a basic understanding of it, and I thought the match itself was okay. Like, it was interesting watching players like Lakilo, who then played against Schalke as well, kind of grow into it. Benteke, I thought it was good that we created chances from Benteke, but then he didn't score them. It
Although
was.
I thought the Schalke game, I thought, was actually very pleasing on the eye. I thought we played some really good football. But
Do you think Benteke has the ability to... He's not got a bad first touch, and he is quite good with the ball at his feet, but do you think he'll be able to sort of settle into this system quickly?
Well, I hope so. Because I think basically he's been such a big dog since he came to Selhurst Park that he's been able to play his own game pretty much, and we know that Pardew said to him, operate within that sort of 30-yard circle. Don't worry too much about getting out to the flanks to pick balls up. Don't chase balls back in your own half. Yeah. And I imagine psychologically it will take him a while to get over that. But it looks to me like other Palace players are responding to it quicker than he is. But he's clearly, well, we haven't got a lot of options, but clearly De Boer rates him, so he's not going anywhere. But
no.
I think it was also one of those. It's almost like the players have to be reminded to kind of create chances for him. So in the second half, Wilf actually did that a couple of times. Put the crosses in. Same with Townsend, who I actually think is really interesting in the right wing back role, because it's almost like teams forget that he's actually really good at attacking.
Yeah.
And so they kind of forget. They don't really get him involved. It's a bit like Moses at Chelsea, in that they kind of think that he's so much of a defender that when he actually gets forward, they don't really appreciate that putting him in that attacking position where he can either cross the ball or take a shot, as he did against Schalke. They don't realise that that's actually going to happen.
How have you felt, Rob, about Luca at centre-back? Obviously, he's a placeholder for whoever comes in, be it Fossey, Mensah or Chambers or whoever. But in the last 3 games, I've actually got quite used to Luca there. Like, he's so good everywhere. He can do a job wherever. I quite like him there. Like, I wouldn't be that disappointed if we didn't get another centre-back to play there, and Luca ended up at right centre-back.
I think you have to account for the fact that Luca doesn't want to play in that position. We had this issue with Townsend almost, where he didn't really want to play on the left wing, and the end result is that the manager won out, and Pardew chose not to play him. So I think if you in some ways, I think you look at the strengths that Luca has because of his passing range and his kind of tenacity and his ability on the ball. He'd probably be better suited to a centre midfield role. But what it does show is that he has a great reading and ability to understand the game, so that he can play it at centre back and not look out of place. Because if you'd have put Jednak back in the centre back
we did
role,
in the past.
which
Yeah,
we did in the
yeah.
past. It didn't quite work, but with Luca, he's just such a good footballer that he can read that position and do what he needs to do without having to worry too much about it.
Except he's without doubt an international class defensive midfield player.
Yeah.
So when you've got other options at centre back, why would you crowbar an international class? And because the one thing he's not brilliant at is the old-fashioned centre half. Whether you play 3 centre backs, 2 centre backs, it doesn't really matter when you're facing forward or attacking. But when you're defending corners, which you have to do, Luca's not an actual centre back, as we saw on Saturday.
He was his man.
It's his man, basically.
Like I think the thing that for us as fans that's really interesting to kind of watch is watching what's going on, but not really knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like that, I think that's quite. English football managers tend to be quite predictable, but because it's Frank de Boer, you're kind of not sure. Like he's thrown a few spanners. The Luca decision at centre back is a surprise. People, I think, were a little bit surprised that Puncheon is likely to be a regular starter at first. I think there's a kind of not an appreciation of what Puncheon actually is very good at doing, which is there's all this. I see this on Twitter all the time. Oh, he slows the game down. He passes the ball backwards. But what he's actually doing in many cases is he's keeping the ball, and it's constantly fluid. And it's not about taking quick chances. It's about creating spaces in other parts of the pitch. And if he passes the ball back to Luca switches it across to Scott Dan or Riedewald, and it goes down the other wing, then that's exactly what you want him to do. But anyway, I think that it is really interesting seeing all these slightly different things that you don't quite expect, like Townsend at right wing back, Lekilo coming into the side. All these things are a little bit.
Well, it's not just starting on it as well. It's like there are certain times in the game where you kind of blinked and you opened your eyes again and you go, hang on, he's over there now. What happened? The movement was really much more fluid than we've been used to. And you do. I mean, Loftus-Cheek quite often with Chelsea played behind the main striker as well, so that's another option. He could play as the main striker as well. Was the other option?
Well, he's a big lad, isn't he?
He's very big.
He was really impressive. I thought.
But you kind of think, because we were discussing this, you kind of think, well, you don't expect Lekilo to start, but there again, he played 75 minutes. The same as Speroni. You kind of go normally with your last friendly. Yeah. You kind of think you're going to start with the team, because I thought, like a lot of people, and I think it probably impacted on the size of the crowd. I thought we'd be seeing 18 or 19 players. Yeah, I thought it'd be a constant, but I think we kept the same side for 70 minutes.
Yeah, there's only 3 subs.
Yeah, and I think that's really, because then I think the fact that Julian started, because Julian looked really comfortable, especially he had the ball at his feet for a lot of the time, and if that was Hennessy, you'd never mind blinking, you'd be closing your eyes every time the ball went back towards him.
Can we slightly critical for the guy, slightly slow to get down to the goal? Do you think?
I thought he was. Did an amazing job getting. I thought he was really unlucky not to reach it. I think if it hadn't been raining so hard, he might have reached it. I think he actually made a really good effort. You could say his starting position was slightly wrong, but I didn't think he did much wrong, to be perfectly honest.
I'm
there he is now.
That's Andy. Yeah, perfect timing.